Okay, and we are live now. I am live. We're in the building, baby. Professor Phil, back on my channel. I don't typically come to my channel to do lives, but I'm here to talk about immigrations. I'm waiting for my translator to come in. She was a bit tied up about some DACA things, and I didn't quite, it wasn't quite the appealing touch as far as me talking about DACA when DACA is not important right now. What's important is how to have to avoid the context of strong-armed entities that is going to take a ride. Whoops. Oh boy, I'm gonna have to turn this off. Okay. Here we go. Hopefully it's not echoing. Not anymore. No. Still hears me. Okay. Not good. Turn it off entirely. Doing something there. All right. So, of course, we don't have any viewership. I was going to, and we are going to go over, let's see here. Oops. We're going to go over to renunification, which is a way to get over to or use the Immigration Act, the Immigration Nationality Act, which a lot of people love to use. They like to use it, but don't know how to use it properly. So a lot of people are engaging. Let's see here. I got people asking for the link, so you guys got to excuse me for a moment. A lot of people are asking for, boy, just that fast. And this is just an attention span I have. I have it, but my brain slips a gear once in a while. People are essentially asking for how does this immigration thing? Well, for the most part, everybody's using the Immigration Act under the auspice that they can use it for domestic purposes when it's made for foreign and domestic relations. But the basics of the domestic end of it is that the discourse of law says that if you fall under immigration status, that you're not technically, or you're not recognized as a domestic subcontractor, an obligee. Okay, the obligee of check my page. Gosh, simple stuff. So with the renunification process, the applicable end to it is, that's what I have to do, is stop answering here. Okay, so close that. The typical process is to essentially eliminate foreign representation when there is no representation. Hey, Ms. Delgado, nice to see you up in here. There you are. Can you hear me good? Really I can hardly hear you. I can't hear you at all.
Okay. Oh, let me turn up my volume. Would that work? Universal left the call. Okay.
Okay, I see you.
Okay. I
can't hear you though. Can't hear you.
Wow. I wonder what's going on.
Or something.
Yeah, probably so. Let me see if. All right. No, I don't. Let's see. Let me take it off. Can you hear me now?
Okay, now I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. It was a headset.
It's okay.
I'm here.
Okay, you can hear me, right?
I can hear you perfectly fine. Thank you.
Okay, very good. I'm gonna send you the link. I actually forgot. I put it on the page itself though, but I'll send you the direct link to it. Send to your phone here, and we're gonna go over how immigration actually works, how people use it. You got Moors and all these other groups that are using it to interpret that they're foreign in a domestic land. But what about if it's in reverse and you're using it to become domestic in a foreign land?
Mm-hmm.
So, in other words, from the steps here, which is actually quite simple, it's simpler than most know because most notably, the general populace are just simply not up on how the immigration, how an immigration status or how the Immigration and Nationality Act works. Nationality from the dispute of one in the state versus a country is basically the separation of whether you're foreign with sovereign rights or you're stateside. If you're if you're stateside, is it no countryside, and you have corporate rights. Big difference between differentiation between state and sovereignty and corporation and nationalism and corporations and how that all kind of coincides to each other. Did you get the link? I just sent it to you just a
Yeah,
moment ago.
you sent it to my messages. Okay, I got the link. Here it is right here.
Okay. Go ahead and pull the link up and then we'll go over the link real quick.
Okay. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of I'm getting a lot of questions on Facebook.
And that's fine. Bring the questions in. Of course, the link you have, repost it, please. Send it to whoever and whomever wants to listen in on it. Let's see here. And of course, I'm getting questions, which is kind of annoying because I just posted the link several times and I'm still getting questions here. Let's see here. And of course, I'm sure you have questions as well. So,
yeah. Hola, hola, mi gente. A ver cuánto estamos aquí presentes. I'm saying hello to all the people. Oh.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, I don't have anybody here.
Let me know when you're all fixed there. Let me
Oh
know.
yeah, I'm here. I'm here. I'm on. I'm on. I'm
Okay.
sending the link to all my friends that I can that are speaking Spanish. Um,
Okay.
that speak Spanish, and I was just waiting for you so that I
Sorry for
could
that.
start because I'm using. It's okay. I'm using my laptop and my phone as we speak. So I'm multitasking.
Yep, yep. I got you. I didn't want anybody to think that we were just sitting on here and they couldn't hear anything.
Hmm. This is my first time using Hangouts. Like, yeah, I guess.
Mm, yeah, it's kind of unique.
Yeah.
It does have a unique way of, yeah.
I thought we were gonna go on live with Facebook like last time.
Would
Uh,
have, but this is more convenient. This is something where you can just post it, repost it, and it's there as opposed to going on Facebook. And then people can't, make comments and all of that. They can actually go in the comments section
mhm,
on here, and I can
mhm.
actually see them. I mean, you can do it on Facebook, of course, but I'm just saying it. There's I guess more of there's a unique thing where I can see what's going on here in front of me, while at the same time I can I can switch over and I can hear you. See, you got a Ras in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking for my DACA group. That way they can get on too. It's quite a bit. There's a lot of groups here, really.
All right.
Yeah, we
And
really wanted to join. So,
now remember, we can always just kick it off, and then we'll get back to them at some point. I know they'll have a bunch of questions and all that good stuff.
okay.
So
All right.
let's go over the renunciation process,
Then,
which is the link. Yeah, the link I sent you.
okay, vamos a hablar de el
No.
renunciar.
In English first.
Oh, okay.
Right. This way, because I know majority are going to be. I mean, these are very short sentences, so I'm sure reverberating it shouldn't be an issue. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. All right. Let me go ahead and just go ahead and get off then. Okay. I'm done.
I mean, you can stay on Facebook. That's fine. That's awesome. You should stay on Facebook. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm staying. Yeah. Now
Or
it's the
what? Or would I?
renunciation
Or
of
here?
yours.
Hold on. You didn't go off Facebook yet, have you?
No, I haven't. I have not.
Okay, stay on there. And what I'll do is I'll go over to your page and I'll splice in so I can actually go on your end and let's see here. Maria, hold on a minute. I'll look for you and then I'll usually you got to invite the person. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, yeah, that's one of the principles there. Give me a second. Boy, where you at? There you are. Okay. Yeah, just stay on Facebook. I'll go over. But okay, you repost. You said you're live on there. I don't see you on there.
No. Not yet. I thought we were going to be live. And
Oh, okay. What I'll do is I'll splice it. Don't worry about it. I'll get it.
okay.
Yeah, just in case they can't get on YouTube, which I doubt it, but I'm just saying, just in case. And of course, I'm sure they wanna be on there, be able to check out what we're doing too.
Yeah, of course.
All right. All right. Okay. So going live in a few moments on Facebook. And there we are. So I'm gonna wait for it to give a unique pop-up, and then I'll add you. There you go. Just invited you. So you should see the pop-up there.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay, let me go ahead and go. Let's see. I'm here. Yes, I saw it. Okay, here we go.
All right.
I see you, and I am trying to. Let's see. Can you see me? No.
I can't see you right now. It says you're watching, but I don't see you though. Let me try to. It says bringing you in on camera is not possible. It says can't bring Connie on camera. Apparently that doesn't work unless you have to splice the camera. Question is immigration. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to. Yeah, I have to. Here we go. Here we go. Let's see.
What happens to the native born Americans? Let's say if you were born in New York and you renounced your citizenship, what happens to them? Can they get deported? The Patriot myth is that they cannot deport you out of the country. They will send you back to New York. Okay, this is if you're outside the country, right? And you could have wrote into the box. I don't even know why you're doing that. You're in two places at once, Raz. Native born American, let's say if he was born in New York, renounce the citizenship. But here's the thing. The only way you can get deported is if you choose another country and that country accepts your membership, which is your way of repatriatizing to another country. But you'd have to be a part of that country, or you'd already have had to have been a citizen there prior to going to that country. Because no one's just going to let you walk over the border. Oh yeah, come on in. Water's warm. It doesn't work like that. You'd have to have something economical or something involving you in that particular country to be patriotized in that particular country for whatever purpose or reason you're going there. As far as the U.S. deporting you in regards to you no longer want to be a citizen of the state, they will ask what country you want to go to. That's happened to a lot of Moors, which is exactly what I'm going to get into, and why domestically they think they're foreign, and foreign they think they're domestic. It's complete opposite ends. You got the Moors who want to be foreign representations of trust and entities and all these nonprofits, and then New York is a corporation. Yes, it is King Bay. It is a corporation. So essentially, for the United States to no longer allow you to hold membership in America, ultimately America would have to, upon renunciation, they'd have to actually ask you what state you're going to go to, because once they what's going to have to happen, folks, is something else. Anyway, so HJR 192. No, King Bay, you're completely off on that one. Dave, how's it going? It was going on, Tommy. How's it going, guys? So at the end of the day, renunciation basically says you're no longer a member. So that means you're no longer a contractor for the United States and acting in the revenue capacity of raising money for the Constitution and for the statutes. You're no longer employed by the corporation effectively. Now, HJR 192, it's a state of mind. Okay, state of mind's fine, but what I'm talking about is reality. We're not talking abstract stuff where it's, well, they said we're this. No, I'm talking about things that are in writing, only in writing. HJR 192 was a device to take away. I read it already. Here's what I'm trying to say. They replaced everything that was indebted to the public and created credit for anybody that wanted to lend their labor. So it's an exchange. The United States is bankrupt and exits in name only. Okay, King Bay. Apparently you got it all correct, so I'll leave it there. So for the most part, if you're working for a company and you decide you no longer want to do business with the company, you turn around and, like renunciation, you decide you no longer want to be employed by that company. That's effectively what you're doing. You're saying, I no longer want to negotiate with your entity, just like I'm doing with Mr. Bay. He thinks that it's all based on the government creating itself in only name, and it doesn't exist, but it exists. Even though it's a mind state, it exists in the real world when it comes down to corporations, negotiable instruments, and financial exchanges. It comes down to monetary gain and who gets what based on wealth, finance, status, and most importantly, whether you're nationally a product of your government by creation, which is ultimately whether or not you're contracted with them or not. And this is where the Immigration Nationality Act gets kicked in, and why a lot of Moors and other people cannot use it to suture their problem, as opposed to immigration. Folks with immigration problems uses the Immigration and Nationality Act to actually become a member of the contractual entity we call the United States, or the state of, or whatever state they're deriving themselves to be in a negotiable instrument to. An instrument, I mean instrumentalistically involved in negotiations to raise capital. Of course, you live your life as according to what you believe is freedom, and deprive those that try to deprive you of your liberty, which of course can be even government. So why would you take away your own gun or right to have a gun, whether it's 100 bullets in your clip is 30? The bottom line is just who's to determine what legally is responsibility. And responsibility is going to be based on what the state created instead of what the people say they are out of the creation of. I'm out of the creation of freedom, but if freedom comes with a price, then there is no such thing as freedom. It doesn't exist. It's an illusion, and you're excluded from that illusion because you're not practicing the principle of the illusionary corporate construct. You either create a corporation, negotiate through it, and become a part of the game, or become a liability and practice its laws and its principles, and otherwise just be a part of the game. You're not the negotiator; you're being negotiated for. So that's an option. So go ahead and start with the renunciation and U.S. national abroad. Start from section 349, A and 5.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
It's the section 349A5 of the Immigration and Nationality Act, INA, is the section of law governing the right of a United States citizen to renounce abroad his or her U.S. citizenship. That section of law provides for the loss of nationality by voluntarily and with the intention
Wait, hold on. Loss of what now? What loss of what?
Loss of nationality by voluntarily.
Loss of nationality. Right.
By voluntarily.
so if you're renouncing the state by saying, I'm not involved in your contractual doings, I'm not a part of the national problem, I'm not a part of the national budget, and I have nothing to do with America as an institution, what are they telling you at that point? I must have a huge delay there. Go ahead.
Okay, do I keep on going? Okay.
No. I was asking you a question. That was a question.
Go ahead.
No, I was just basically saying if you decide to if you decide no longer to be a member of the contractual party, will you receive benefits anymore?
No.
There you go. Okay, keep going.
Okay, that section of law provides for the loss of nationality by voluntarily and with the intention of relinquishing nationality. So making a formal renunciation of nationality before a diplomatic or consular officer of the United States in a foreign state in such form as may be prescribed by the Secretary of State.
Now let's try that one more time. Making a formal what?
Making a formal renunciation of nationality before a diplomatic or consular officer of the United States in a foreign state in such form as may be prescribed by the Secretary of State.
Now, if you did that in a foreign state, okay, let's just say you did it in a foreign state. Okay, let's just for giggles, yeah, right? If you went to a foreign state, I like this part. You're going to, or you're in a foreign state. You renounce your citizenship in that state. You renounce it.
Yeah.
Everybody in that state does it. What happens?
You don't have to be under their rules or government or jurisdiction.
Right, but at the same time, aren't you turning around and saying that now you're deciding um, man. Okay, so aren't you all? So if you're renouncing your nationality, aren't you at the same time? Aren't you turning around and saying, let's say everybody in the nation renunciate the United States? Wouldn't the United States now have to become a new nation?
Yes.
Right? Because the corporation doesn't have its it doesn't dictate the requirement of the public, because the public using their private demand to create a new nation could in fact create a new nation, couldn't they? If they no longer wanted to be nationalists of the state and they wanted to be outside of the corporate structure, and they decided domestically they're now their own entity as a collective. They've all said, okay, we're going from being a national of this state and being a national of a foreign state now, and now we can turn around and import this constitution of any other country, even their laws. You can import their laws. Now, what I want you to do is you can translate that in Spanish. Go ahead.
La sección 349A5 de la Migración y el Acto de Nacionalidad, INA 8, con el Código de Estados Unidos 1481A5, en la sección de la ley gobernando el derecho de los Estados Unidos de ciudadanía, renuncia a él o ella, la ciudadanía de los Estados Unidos. En esa sección de la ley proviene que pierde la nacionalidad voluntaria y con la intención de tener una nacionalidad y de identificación, haciendo formalmente una renunciación de nacionalidad antes diplomática o en frente de un oficial consular de los Estados Unidos en un estado extranjero. Es una forma que es hecho por el estado del secretario del estado. Okay. I got it. Are you there? Did I lose you?
Yes. Oh. No, I just muted myself. I'm two sides here. I'm working one side of the room and the other.
Exactly.
Thank you, Mr. Putras. He reposted my link on the Facebook group. Everybody's asking, but no one's looking. Just give you a headache. When I say it's on my page. Go look on my page. And, where's the link at? Anyway, so okay, what we'll do is we'll continue.
It's on my page too.
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm going to translate. I'm going to say, el link está en mi página también. Allí puedes ver que estamos en vivo. So, abre ahí el link que tenemos ahí en el Facebook y vamos a estar estamos en vivo ahorita transmitiendo. Okay.
All right. Now go down to the elements of renunciation. Go down there, and a person wishing to renounce. Go from there, and I want everybody to understand every single country has the same type of procedure. Go ahead, I'm listening.
Okay. A person wishing to renounce his or her U.S. citizenship must voluntarily and with intent to relinquish U.S. citizenship. First of all, number one, appear in person before a U.S. consular or diplomatic officer. In a foreign country, number two, in a foreign country at a U.S. embassy or consulate. And number three, sign an oath of renunciation. Renunciations abroad that do not meet the conditions described above have no legal effect because of the provisions of sections 349A5. U.S. citizens can only renounce their citizenship in person and therefore cannot do so by mail, electronically, or through agents. In fact,
Now,
U.S.
okay, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
In fact, the United States courts have held certain attempts to renounce U.S. citizenship to be ineffective on a variety of grounds, as discussed below. Questions concerning renunciation of the United States citizenship in the United States pursuant to INA Section 349A 6 must be directed to the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, of the Department of Homeland Security.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. All right. All right. So go ahead and translate that. And then we'll go back into it.
Elementos de renunciar. Una persona que quiere renunciar a su ciudadanía necesita que hacerlo voluntariamente con el intento de renunciar o cancelar totalmente su ciudadanía de los Estados. Aparecer en persona ante el consular estadounidense o diplomático o enfrente de un oficial diplomático en un país extranjero, en la embassy de los Estados Unidos o el consular el consulado, y firmar, ¿verdad?, su renunciación. Las renunciaciones en realidad no adquieren las condiciones aquí que están abajo, que no tienen efecto legal, porque en realidad las provisiones con la sección 349A y 5, los ciudadanos de los Estados Unidos pueden renunciar su ciudadanía en persona y no pueden hacerlo electrónicamente, no por otros agentes, sino que uno solo tiene que ir, tiene la responsabilidad de ir. Por cierto, las cortes de los Estados Unidos tienen ciertos atentos y requerimientos de renunciar a la ciudadanía para ser inefectivo en las variedades, lo que vamos a leer ahorita. Preguntas de la renunciación de los ciudadanos en los Estados Unidos con la sección 349A6 tiene que ser directamente pertenente a la ciudadanía de los Estados Unidos, servicios de inmigración pertenente al Departamento de Homeland Security. Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on a minute. I'm going to give me 1 second. Now, here's where I want to bust all the supposed Moore's bubbles. This is going to hurt you real bad because apparently non-responses from the immigration authority is the main reason why you can't be recognized as any other nationality unless you go in. Here it is right here. She said it out loud in English. Okay. She said renunciation aboard that do not meet conditions described above have no legal effect. Okay, that means if you haven't appeared in person in a foreign country or U.S. Embassy or consulate or signed an oath of renunciation. So here's where it says right here. It says in plain daylight. It says it right here in front of you. Because of the provision of Section 349A and 5, U.S. citizens can only renunciate their citizenship in person, and therefore cannot do so by mail, electronically, or through agents. That means for all you Moors out there that absolutely go bananas about your paperwork, everybody that goes bananas about their paperwork about being a national, you cannot do it but in person. And I'm gonna tell you what happens. I've already done it twice, actually 3 times. And 2, the feds came and grabbed the guys. They said, look, you're not citizens anymore. So are you sure you want to leave this? Now we understand your origin. You're saying that you want to be in Morocco. Is that where you want to be deported to? Now, if you think I'm joking, go try it. If you think I'm playing, go try it. Go renunciate and see what happens. It's not about claiming nationality. It's the fact that nationality is an incorporated principle of nationalizing people based on what nation they're from or what state they're from. States are usually, especially if they're formulated under the auspice of independent of countries, are sovereign, but their capacity still has to act in some form of corporatism in order to reap benefits from foreign and domestic consumption. It just doesn't, it's a two-way street, but it still has to be in the structure of corporatism, period. If you don't rebut your claim, it stands as law. That sounds good unless there's an actual law signed by a contractor specifying that, yes, legally, you are a domestic Moor. And until they do that, you're not a foreign Moor, because if you're a foreign Moor, you wouldn't be here. They would have taken you and deported you, as they're doing the Hispanic population, as they're doing many other populations that they say, well, you haven't renounced yourself in that country. America comes from Morocco, El Morocco. Okay, that's great. But guess what? We have no evidence of that. And plus, on top of that, there's standing armies inside of Morocco's parameter called U.S. soldiers. So we can say it as long as we want that we created this place. But nationalism means nothing without a nation and a standing army, the creation of a state, separated, most importantly, and then nationally recognized by the same entity and structure of the entity that you respectively created. So if you're using a nonprofit as your way of saying we're structured as a foreign entity, as a foreign policy owner, as a foreign allegiance from Morocco to America, you're playing wrong. You need to do more reading. Exactly. Thank you, King Bey. You need to do a lot more reading, because apparently you haven't read the U.S. Immigration and Nationality Act, because it tells you how you renunciate yourself. And when you do that, you're out of here. You're gone. So is there a difference of the United States and the U.S.? In essence, there really isn't. As far as the name itself, it was incorporated, but its main principle is to have subdivision entities. The United States acts as kind of the overlay of the idea, but the principle are all these agent entities that are acting to integrate and finance and underwrite the general public's digest, its finances, its consumption, its awareness of subcontracting, and becoming liable to all these other corporations. Okay, that means that they're ultimately, even though they're subcontracted by the United States, it's acting on its behalf. But the United States itself is an institution of I guess you could say the general public, who it is, what it's aligned to, how it's acknowledged. It's just the base of a name, not necessarily an incorporated, documented fact. Whereas all these corporations that act on its behalf, they're documented, they're factual, they're entities, but they're structured by people. And therefore, the United States is granting them power. That's why they always, if you notice, when they pass a bill, they always illustrate one thing in the bill. It's very important. They always take the bill and hand it to a subcorporate entity that acts on its behalf. So essentially, America only has agents in essence. That's what the entire principle of the United States is built on, agents, foreign and domestic, which is exactly why they have it in the Constitution that they will protect their domestic end goals for foreign and domestic purposes, which is to be gainful, always have the upper hand, and most importantly, the most important factual, just the principle of America, it's always come from the letterhead of strength. If North Korea decides they're going to start World War III, as far as they're concerned, we're going to have to go to war. Now, the thing is, we can avoid it. They're dying. They have famine. They have no real economical strength, and they're not backed by anybody, even though it will be catastrophic. We're willing to take the chance of assuming that these people aren't as threatening as they say they are, even though we're assuming on the basis of his nuclear programs, he may be in fact effective. He may in fact be the biggest criminal we ultimately would have assumed wouldn't be so big if we didn't give him the kind of power that he's been able to otherwise wrangle from the domestic end of his country. But tailoring it based on what the corporation is, the corporate end of it, if its mission statement is to act in a kamikaze state, and America's end is a kamikaze state, there's always going to be a stalemate. North Korea will never fall, and America would never fall because their end goals meets one principle, and that's it. That's all. And that is to have the upper hand at all times. Always come from the letter of strength. That means everybody else is a sacrifice. You are a pawn in their sick game of militarization of every component of nationalism. And that means if you come in talking about you want to act as a national, you're actually domesticating yourself for foreign or domestic purposes, either for liquidable purposes, heritable purposes, creation of new forms of nobility in other domestic and foreign lands, and then of course at the same time incorporating the general application of forcing others to believe that you as an agent can help their nationalism or help their ideology or their belief system, as Mr. Bay has gone on to admit to all of us that he doesn't understand what nationalism is. Nationalism is a sport of, exactly, that's right, Jerry. Nationalism is a sport of agents acting for its own domestic end, which is either survival, its urgency is most important, which is to otherwise keep its domestic or its its means of shoring up all its liabilities, yet taking all the assets and distributing any liability to anyone that they think that will be a benefit to them, yet at the same time reaping all the benefits. And of course, who was that said we should take all the benefits, reap all the benefits, we reap all the benefits, but we take no liabilities. Who was that again? That was big banker. I forgot his name again. Who was that, Jared? Who? Rockefeller said that. He says, what was it? What did he say again?
Oh yeah, Rockefeller.
Hold on, I'm listening to Jared. He's live on Facebook. Say what? Right. You can make any law you want. Allow us to control the money. So basically, we'll have all the assets, but you can have the liability, which is to create the forms of liability in relation to domesticate. Right. So to domesticate debt, you need slaves acting as agents for foreign and domestic purposes. So essentially, the economy is built on slaves that are acting as domestic and foreign institutions on behalf of the interests of corporate structuring, for financial redistribution, for collections purposes, for militarization of monetary policies to protect the bankers and their industries. I mean, that's the entire principle of it all. That's the entire principle. It has nothing to do with us at all. We have nothing to do with it. Mm-hmm. Gold, silver, you come in with a pound of silver, 100 pounds of gold, and they'll say one certificate is worth more than that. Based on what? Based on the economy saying that the nationals, which is our domestic dispute as a collective, saying we all agree that piece of paper weighs more than a pot of gold or millions of dollars and billion. This is how you create the illusion of wealth. You make people believe something based on the end of the stick and not what's on the stick. That's the thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to give you the idea of wealth, but I'm not going to actually give you physical wealth. Like rappers, we have all this power because we're given all these incentives. But at the end of the day, you control, you own, and you run nothing. So all your power is for naught. A puppet on a string. Right. You're an agent. Right. Basically, everybody is an agent. If you have a listen, I'll make it simple for you. If you have a state identification card, I already took the state of Illinois to court, and I basically asked him very simply, am I an agent of the state? And he said, as long as you're raising revenue for the state as a taxpayer, you are an agent. By them saying that, they have told me I am in fact a contractor acting on their behalf, raising revenue on their behalf, doing what domestically they say I could not do as a foreign representative. Now, if I did as a foreign representative, I would be going elsewhere to preserve the Federal Reserve note, its domestic goods, its services, and then protect its infrastructure. So that if anybody comes along and says, and this is why you can see that in a lot of movies, watch a movie and watch what happens when you see somebody talking about, let's blow this up over here. How interesting America all of a sudden says, oh, well, that doesn't sound good. Fit to us. So their leg up is to always have an economical response to everything that disenfranchises basically the agents, all the agents that are involved. That's us and everyone else. What is my nationality? Brother King Bay, you don't even have a nation. How are you going to talk about the nationality when the Nationality Act tells me that the only person that can be an actual domestic agent to the United States is those in which act on behalf or act as an agent of the government? It's just that simple, man. It's just that simple. Hold on a minute. Huh? Yeah, exactly. Because the politicians know where the benefits come from. They're not going to turn around and turn their back on the thing that they benefit most from. Who does that? That doesn't make any sense. So, Ms. Delgado, you there?
Yes.
All right. So we're going to go through the requirement of renunciating all rights and privileges, which is where where you can correspond your nationalism. If King Bay, if you're so smart, I want you to go and renunciate yourself. I want you to go tomorrow, go down to the consulate's office or the embassy and ask them that you intend on renunciating and that you want to revoke all your privileges and rights and see what happens to you. Okay. Then they're going to give you your nationality because you're going to believe that that nation, in fact, is your nation, and by its own construct, regardless of how many rules and laws you create, no matter how many you said you've accepted, no matter how many times they acquiescence you into a contract, or you acquiescing them into a contract, they will kick you out of the United States. Period. Renunciate and see what happens. Hold on a minute. Jared, go ahead and read a requirement of renunciate all rights and privileges. C.
Okay.
Oh, matter of fact, no. Actually, let's go over to the link I sent you. I just sent you a link about Mexico. We're gonna actually dig into something that's right in front of you. Let's give somebody an actual national that wants to become a domestic national instead of a foreign representative of his country, and then attempt to act on the United States' accord by raising revenue and going through the immigration process. We're gonna skip through all of that, and we're gonna go right here to Mexico's citizenship. Go line for line, and then turn around and translate.
Okay. Mexican citizenship is based on the federal constitution as amended March 20th of 1998.
Hold on. Say that one more time.
Wow. Mexican citizenship is based on the federal constitution as amended March 20th, 1998.
Are you hearing that, King Bay? That means that if anybody has a citizenship, you are in the Constitution as a subcontractor, pledged to the people as an obligor. There is no such thing as I'm outside of it. I'm not a domestic entity via the United States. You're inside the United States as a member of the citizenship in which the federal or the state constitution granted you the allowance to act on behalf of the United States or the state you derive from as an agent. Period. Go ahead, keep going. No, matter of fact, like I said, every sentence and then translate into Spanish.
Okay. La ciudadanía mexicana está basada en la Constitución Federal que fue cambiada marzo 20 del 1998. By birth, child born within the territory of Mexico, regardless of the nationality of the parents. El que fue nacido dentro del territorio mexicano, no importa la nacionalidad de los padres. Child born abroad to Mexican parents, child born abroad, military, civilian, Mexican, ship or plane. Si fue nacido dentro de los padres mexicanos, en civil o en el militar, en el aeroplano o por mar. By naturalization, Mexican citizenship may be applied for upon fulfillment of the following. Submit an application requesting Mexican nationality at the Mexican Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Prove knowledge of the history of the Mexico. Speak Spanish and be integrated into the national culture.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that?
Yes, oíste esto.
Wow. Right. Now, is that not telling you, if I don't speak proper English, you think, or English vernacular, you think I'm an American national? How can I be an American national?
No.
I can't even speak the language.
Mm-hmm.
About 80, I'd say that, now, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to take the integrity of Black people learning English properly, but our vernacular hasn't quite gotten well enough to get to the point of what we would believe is a national integration of intellectual surplus. That means that we are equivalent to those that understand the Constitution, that have read the Constitution, that have passed the Constitution, and then be able to ultimately, at the same time, if I stuck 20 people in the room, and don't get me wrong, now it's kind of a split. There's a lot of dummies out there. So you're going to get a lot of people that nationally, in the general consensus, don't know the Constitution, haven't read it. I can ask you the Second Amendment in the fourth clause, and I guarantee that the common person doesn't know. But I'm talking, 20, 30, 40 years ago, we didn't know these things. Mm-hmm. Now I'm talking about that was to show you an average American. Average American has a national or acts in the national light as someone that understands the Constitution, speaks fluent. Now I take education out because fluent English and proper vernacular are two different things, but the categories are so mixed together, it's hard to distinct the two. It's different between being able to speak proper and intellectually be able to comprehend in a book on national symbols, the creed of the Constitution, its origins and all that sort of stuff. We're talking knowledge versus intellectual surplus, which is where you meet between what would be considered a national and what would be considered a first-class citizen. In America, when it comes down to money and what nationalism is all about. Okay, you get the average person, they would fail miserably and they would be deported because they don't know. Like in Chicago, I remember I used to hang with gangbangers all the time, but there was one thing that was distinctively important about gang membership. If you didn't know, if somebody came to you, a lieutenant or a chief came to you and he said, "Look, bro, what's your Second Amendment?" And you sitting there looking at Second Amendment, I'm using proper vernacular. He would say in your literature, what is the literature of your second constitutional command? And you looking at it and you saying, they say, no, you can't look at it though. So you have to have firsthand knowledge. You can't just turn around and say, because this would distinctively tell you whether you're a part of the nation, which is the gang, or whether or not you're trying to be a corresponding agent for it, but yet at the same time, never go through the rich, realistic principle of becoming a national within the gang itself, structured based on its constitution and its primary principle, which is basically its mission statement, silence and secrecy and things of this nature. These are based on the culture that would, give you the means of renunciating the state and acting within your own nationhood. It's basically gang culture derived from what nationalism was supposed to be, what was supposed to be integrated as nationalism, which would be acceptable if one actually had a constitution that reflected and was recognized by the state. If it was recognized by the state, the gangs would actually own territory. They would control their side of town. They would control cities. Control cities. If King Hoover was on the street right now, knew this and reformed everybody using his constitution to pledge, he was a gangster disciple, by the way. And by taking his creed to the level of nationalism, where all of the corresponding fractured institutions of gangster disciples came and unified as one, the South Side of Chicago would be owned by him. He would own it, because you can't come over and collect anything without dues, taxes, without trespassing on public and private property. You're talking about nationalism at a gang level, just at a gang level. Okay, and they understood you needed a constitution. You need to renunciate the state by not acting as an agent for them. You don't snitch, you don't rat, you don't, you may pay taxes, but at the end of the day, you pay dues to the gang because you're acknowledging the gang's presence as the absolute power, as opposed to the national surplus of what we believe is the power, which are police and other law enforcement agencies, as opposed to a gang which is structured to act as its own police, act as its own. And it was built on the principle of nationalism to give it backbone, so no one came into their neighborhood and took whatever they wanted. You couldn't just kick somebody out of their house without talking to the gang. The city couldn't come down and impound cars without talking to the gang, because everybody had to pay a due based on the contract of the Constitution, abstracting all of the gang members as a collective unit, almost like a political party. That's effectively what it did. It even turned into a political party. There is, I believe, there's still an advisor on the political party for one of the, I think, 3 of the gang sects that are still registered, gangs registered. Okay, let me say that one more time. Registered as a political party. So if a gang can do that, nationalism is real. It is very real. Let's see here. Okay, I'm not even, King Bay, I'll let you go ahead and dispute all you like. Okay, so keep going, Maria.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes, I'm over here. Let's see.
Dual citizenship, I believe.
By dual, prove residence in Mexico for the last 5 years before submitting the application, unless married to a Mexican citizen, have a Mexican parent or child, have been adopted by a Mexican citizen, have contributed distinctly to Mexico, renounce the citizenship of an origin once the application has been approved. Probar la residencia por naturalización. Tienes que probar la residencia en México por los últimos 5 años antes de someter la aplicación. Al menos que estás casado con un ciudadano mexicano, tener un padre mexicano o hijo mexicano, ha sido adoptado por la ciudadanía mexicana, ha sido contribuido distintamente a México, renunciar tu ciudadanía en el origen cuando hagas la aplicación sea aprobada y sea aprobada. Dual citizenship, not specified in parentheses. Mexican law establishes a distinction between nationality.
Hold on, 1 second. 1 second. I had a question over here.
Okay.
I had a question over here. It says, let's see here. Let me see. Give me a second. It says, I remember you did an oath to the Constitution on paper with a postal stamp, and it erased a man's debt with the IRS. What was that about? Now that was over, shit. I think that was about 6 to maybe 7 years ago. I forget exactly how long ago it was, but here's what I actually had done. What I actually had done, let's see here. What am I doing here? Okay, I'm not quite understanding. All right. Okay, no, I don't know what this is all about here. Okay, so I don't know what that was. So, okay, what I did was, and this is where everybody's getting their information from. 18 USC subsection 8 is where the information and using postal stamps was something that I came up with in order to pay debts with. And the sole basis of it, actually, it's a lot simpler than it seems or looks. Give me a second here. Actually gonna look it up here. 18 USC subsection 8 basically allows you to use postal stamps as a form of payment. Section 8. And with the postal stamp, the value is the reflection of the obligation. So think of it as a matching grant. Every dollar I put in your hand, you give me a consideration of value back. So if I give you a document saying this is worth $100, you give me $100 with a credit on it instead of money in my hand. So here it is right here. The term, obligation, or other security of the United States include all bonds, certificate of indebtedness, national bank currency, Federal Reserve notes, federal bank notes, coupons, blah, 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 blah. And then it goes on to say at the very bottom, issued under an act of Congress and canceled postal stamps. So what I did was, let me get my stamper here. Where is it? Okay. So what I did was, I went and got one of these. See, this is where I used to live, Battle Creek. I used to live in Battle Creek. You can see here. See? So I went and got this little doodad here, and this cancels out the stamp. So upon stamping the document and the oath, or whatever document they sent, I then sent the oath and the contract back, saying that the value is in the Constitution based on the collection of the obligation under 18 USC subsection 8, which is to cancel the debt along with canceling the stamp. By canceling the stamp, you ultimately cancel the contract at the same time. You're giving them value in exchange for it, and then you're canceling the obligation by saying that 18 USC subsection 8 is where the contract fell under. You're telling me the term of obligation or other securities of the United States are bonds, certificates, national bank notes, Federal Reserve notes, and all these sections. If I put a stamp on any of them, you cancel it and it no longer becomes an obligation of the United States. So actually, to reduce the public debt, you could in fact put postal stamps on all your contracts and any currency you get your hands on, and basically with a letter stipulating the 18 USC subsection 8 is the obligation to the United States, it becomes a canceled obligation. No longer becomes an obligation to pay or to otherwise raise revenue to offset the balance and allow them to tax it. Allowing bank currency to continue and all these fractionalized financial instruments to continue to float in the public, it's like saying, I want to continue to employ you to finance the situation, to continue to pledge more money towards a debt that will never be paid, because the fiscal balance continues to lean on whether or not the general public is going to continue to produce more credit. More credit means I need more contracts and more debt, which is executed by saying they're demanding something. Let's pass a bill. And by passing a bill, we're going to invoice the people at the end of the fiscal balance and raise more revenue for them, and then steal their money and then give it right back to them at interest. Because, well, that's how the national fiscal balance works. That's how we interact. That's how we do business. It's nothing personal. It's just business. Okay, so continue. I'm sorry. Continue with the.
Ms. Delgado, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Loss of citizenship. Okay, dual citizenship. Not specified in parentheses. Mexican law establishes a distinction between nationality and citizenship.
Hold on and say that one more time.
Yes.
Say that one more time.
Wow. There's a distinction between nationality and citizenship.
Correct.
Wow. The 1998 amendment recognizes.
Hold on. Here's the most important thing. Prove knowledge of the history of Mexico, speak Spanish, and to be integrated into the national culture. That right there is part of the national naturalization process. When you go in, you take the Constitution at 18, before you get into, and before you can go up into high school, you have to pass the Constitution. This showed that you were a citizen. You go from nationality, which is who you are, to what you become. So your nationality is revoked the time you enter into a contract with the United States. It's almost like saying you no longer are domestic exchange. You now become a part of the international, foreign, and domestic exchange chains. Now the United States can recognize you because you passed the Constitution, and now you become a party to it. But as I've always said, you didn't sign the Constitution, so therefore you're not a party to it at all. But that's a different story. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. The 1998 amendment recognized Mexican nationality transmitted by birth, restricting nationality to the first generation born abroad. It also preserved Mexican nationality by birth when adopting a foreign nationality. Mexicans abroad holding Mexican nationality will be treated with legal equality in Mexico. Specifically, they will keep patrimonial rights, access to reserved areas of investment, and the ability to inherit without restriction.
Hmm.
Oh,
Say it
wow.
one more time. Say it one more time.
And the ability to inherit without restriction. Or you want me to read everything?
No, read that section again.
Oh,
That
okay.
sounded really good.
Specifically, they will keep patrimonial rights, access to reserved areas of investment, and the ability to inherit without restriction. Wow.
Hmm. So if you were no longer a national, could you do any of those things?
Mm.
Hmm? If you renounce yourself, can you inherit something? You
Yes.
see you see
Yes,
how they're
and the
implying
ability to
something, and
inherit
then right.
without
So how can
restriction.
you inherit land if you no longer a state or a entity citizen by regard of negotiating with the country of your origin, taking its constitution, acting as its pledged obligor, and then underwriting its laws by saying, "Oh yeah, I'm all about American equality." Yet I'm not domestically. You can demand that I domesticate myself and negotiate as a national, but I'm a foreign entity. So in order for me to inherit something, I'm not obliged to do anything you say, but my national rights have to be upheld. How are you going to do that if it very well stipulates and you're obligated to act under a nationalistic institution in order to keep your nationality intact?
Hmm.
See what I'm saying? If I say I'm from Africa and America, and I take United States to court and I say, well, what origin of country am I from? And they say, well, you're in America. I say, am I of America? They'll say, yes, you're of America. I say, but that's funny. You say my origin is African. So if I'm of African descent and we can trace that, then that means you can deport me because I'm no longer a national of the state because I am of the first origin or of the second state in which I claim. They will tell me outright in plain English, because they know that if everybody does it, their national surplus would sink if all the people in prison heard this case. They would say, we can't deport you because you have vested interest in America. By saying that, they said what? What did they just say? Maria, what did they say?
That you have rights, that you have the ability to inherit, that you have the legal equality.
And what does that also mean?
Treated. Huh?
What does that mean? Since I get treated, so if I get all of those things, if they say all of those things apply to me, what does it really come down to? What does it actually come down to?
You're sovereign, or I don't know.
No, that they're going to respect the fact that I'm a benefit to them, and therefore, if I'm a benefit, if they turn around and say, no, you're not a benefit, then everybody in prison would renunciate, and they would empty the prisons, and the national surplus would do what?
Right.
What would happen? What would happen? You would literally unload your prisons. They'd be in Africa eating apples and oranges, chilling, digging up gold for some Ghana corporation. And then Europe sinks behind America. And so if the dollar trips here and Europe trips there, the national surplus that now Africa has a surge of deportees that are now a part of the surplus of Ghana, Kenya, and every other country. So now they're saying, oh my God, they're coming here to domesticate the way America was, and now the institution in which it should be, which is what? A collective, social, economical structure. And it has to be sound. Can't just come there talking talking that hocus pocus thing about what nationalism was in America when you're talking about a different type of domestic institution, which you have to acclimate to their language. What does it say? What does it say here? When Mexican citizenship may apply for fulfillment of the following: submit an application requesting Mexican nationality at the Mexican Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Prove knowledge of the history. So if you know the history of Ghana, you pass. Speak Spanish. You can speak some Guyanese, you pass. And to integrate into the national culture. Now what this means is if you pass these naturalization principles, the practice of becoming a national now is inevitable. And that means you can turn around and renounce yourself here and go to another country. Be a free person. Why? Because you can't act as a foreign entity with a domestic thing attached to you, which is whether or not you're a national of the state. And if you're a national of the state or the United States, you're basically saying, I'm still operating as an institution that's agreed that the United States and I, since I'm an agent of it, I'm raising revenue for it. If anybody in the chat rooms or anybody that's out there paying taxes in any way, shape, or form, you're paying sales tax at the most basic level. We going right now to the corner store to go buy a pop, and you pay taxes. You are by all means, and even if you got all the exemptions in the world, you're paying some type of tax, property tax, city tax. You may be able to dodge the federal tax, but you can't dodge all taxes. It's almost impossible. Even I have a hard time keeping up with it, but all of the rules and laws are there.
Cell phone taxes.
Right. You're paying taxes, telecommunications.
Trash.
That's a tax. It's a tax somewhere.
Tax.
Right. Everywhere.
Yeah.
Come on. They got all these laws to contradict whether or not they're taxing you or not, and then make a law to make it a revenue policy so that they can turn around and turn it into a tax. You can't keep up with all of that. Yeah, come on. I can't keep up with all of it. Yeah. Everything comes with a tax.
Internet.
Right. So this guy, Mr. Bay, which I've just allowed to play his hand out of what he thinks he knows. If he's paying for internet, he's paying a tax. Period. Nobody can show me a bill where there's no tax, there, or they've allocated. And I've allocated hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes and had no problem. Render to Caesar what is Caesar. See, Holmes, that's about the same customary principle of the United States having the leg up syndrome, which is we got to come with strength, and we have to come with an attitude, and they're going to have to respect us. And that's what's going to happen. And that's what politicians are always saying to the nationals that they believe are going to get them in the office. Rebut their slander. Okay. Yeah. Well, I can't rebut something that I'm a part of. That's not possible. So like I said, I salute you in what you believe you can do, but I've already been there. So keep going. I'm sorry.
Okay. So the next part is loss of citizenship. Is that what you want me to read?
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Voluntarily, a person sends letter of renunciation to Mexican Foreign Affairs representative.
Now, ain't that funny? You can do it in Mexico, but you can't do it in America.
Ain't
that something else?
Esto en México, pero no aquí en América. Perder tu ciudadanía voluntariamente, manda una carta de renunciación a los...
Now, let me repeat that when you get done. Go ahead.
Al representativo de los el Departamento de Extranjero de México. Okay, go ahead. I just translated that.
Just a second. Hold on a minute. I'm about to repeat it for my Facebook listeners. It says, person sends letter of renunciation to Mexican Foreign Affairs representative. That's a voluntary thing. Yet you can do it because you want to, because you don't want to be a Mexican national anymore. And they're going to ask you, hey, what country you want to go to? You no longer a member? Want to renunciate? We got you. You want to go to America? Let's see if they'll take you. That's how it works. Keep going. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's okay. Involuntarily, the following are grounds for involuntary loss of Mexican citizenship. Person receives a foreign title or honor. Person who has been naturalized lives for 5 years in original country of birth. Person who has been naturalized attempts to pass as a foreigner on public documents or uses a foreign passport. Any questions concerning citizenship should be directed to the addresses below. And guess what? It's in Washington, D.C.
Ain't that
Consulate.
funny? Ain't that funny?
Yes, that's crazy.
So who do you think they're going to when it comes to acknowledging whether or not the individual, okay, whether or not the individual, the United States is the corresponding factor of the fact that the embassy is the original consulate. You can't even renounce yourself from Mexico, which means ultimately you don't have citizenship to grant yourself the allowance of going to Washington to the consulate's office to do what? Renunciate, right?
Right.
So why can they take it by mail? Because they're basically saying that Mexico, the consulate right now, who is that? Noriega, I think. What's his name? I forget his name. He ran into the consulate's office, and the United States couldn't come in and get him because the United States does not have jurisdiction inside the consulate's office.
Yeah, that's powerful.
That's the reason why when they let you go and you renunciate it, you're going, as soon as you leave, federal agents going to be sitting there waiting for you. They're going to be asking you, hey, would you like a one-way ticket? How would you like to get there? You know what I'm saying? We'll give you a ride there. Definitely. So persons receive a foreign title or honor. Do you hear that?
Yeah.
Ain't that plain English? Ain't that plain English?
Right.
Did you repeat? Did you say this in Spanish?
No, let me translate. Perder tu ciudadanía involuntariamente, ¿verdad? Significa que esto es a base involuntario, perdiendo tu ciudadanía mexicana. Personas que reciben un título de honor extranjero, personas que han sido naturalizadas, viven por 5 años en tu país original de nacimiento, personas que han sido naturalizadas para pasar a un lugar extranjero con documentos públicos o usan un pasaporte extranjero. Y luego, si tienen preguntas, obvio, el consulado mexicano está en Washington, D.C. también. Y aquí está toda la información del teléfono y todo. Wow. Okay, I just finished. I'm finished. I don't know.
Finished? You good?
Yes.
Okay. So what does this all mean to you?
Oh, wow. Well, it's a whole lot to bring in.
It's a whole lot.
But it's true.
It's a one-page document.
Yeah.
How is it that much? Huh?
Well, it's just they've been lying to us. We don't know this.
I mean, it's a one-page document. What are you getting now? What part of this are you getting at this point? Where do you feel like this is fitting when it comes down to requiring to act as a citizen in the status of the United States or Mexico or any other state, and the fact that you can renunciate and not even physically be there? What does that tell you?
That anything is possible now. Pretty much. I mean,
that sounds good. I was just wondering what your actual thoughts were as far as being able to renunciate and not be in the country itself, the country of origin in which you're trying to go to or come from.
Well, there's limitations on a lot of Hispanic, Latinos, you know.
Now, what are the limitations when you can renunciate yourself? What's the limitation at this point?
To your citizenship, the renunciation to your citizenship.
Right. Now tell that in Spanish to everyone that's listening, because I think they need to understand that as opposed to what I'm asking you of what you're hearing or what I'm saying.
En realidad estoy tratando de traducir, ¿verdad? Todo es posible, en realidad. Hay posibilidad de renunciar tu ciudadanía. Aquí se está explicando es una página, ¿verdad? Que en realidad todo es posible. ¿verdad? Con hacerlo correctamente, en renunciar a la ciudadanía, pero ser, porque hay dos distinciones y aquí lo acabamos de leer, que la ley mexicana está establecida en una distinción que entre en la nacionalidad individual de la persona y en la ciudadanía. So tenemos la posibilidad de ir. We can visit, right? Once we become a national, we can visit any
Once you
country.
become a national, you can go to any country that you become, that you're now a patriot entity, or have agreed to act under the Constitution thereof. Constitution thereof. So in essence, you can go right now. You can go from Mexico to Sweden.
Yeah.
You know, to Sweden, you got friends there or whatever, and you're like, hey, y'all want to come through? Let's go have some fun and enjoy ourselves. But yeah, I forgot one last thing. Yeah, I can't go back to the country.
You can't go back, like a Mexican can't go back exactly where? To Mexico?
Right, unless you apply for dual citizenship, which is to separate the two by specifically holding your nationality, yet at the same time asking to be able to acquire a citizenship in another state by patriotizing the domestic surplus exchange, or its extraordinary principle of negotiating as an institution. In other words, if you have, let's say, 250,000 in equity in the economy, they're going to let you stay, even though you don't have citizenship, because some of those situations where equity. Hold on a minute. I'm going to show you where equity sometimes plays a vital role in whether or not you're going to be able to stay in a country for the benefit of the Constitution and the benefit of the economy, or the benefit of nationalism in the first place.
It's all business.
Pretty
much, because in order for the Mexicans to come over here to the United States, it's called what's called a visa, and you get it for what, 3 to 6 months. And what happens is they ask you for income. Well, how much do you have in the bank? Which is ridiculous, because that value, I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's ridiculous, because they get so much into your private business, but you have to have at least, I think 10,000 or more in the bank, and you have to have a business in Mexico in order for the United States actually to
accept you,
even give you a visa. And okay, now I see. So in saying this, when you become a national, when you're able to go all over the world, to a certain extent, except until you get legal status in Mexico officially, like as dual citizenship, like you were saying. That way I can explain to them. Okay,
one document can unlist you as a citizen, and then you can go to any country you want as long as you're accepted there, or you've already established some type of family or economical ties. As long as there's someone there that says economically, financially, or supportive wise, as far as the structure of a family, says that they'll take you in. And that's the reason why you have to have a bond when you get here. Because the first thing they want to do is, if you don't have anybody economically backing you, what is there for you to go ahead and decide you're going to trot off into the motherland and do whatever you want, right? So it would economically depress us. So we're taking all these liabilities and rationalizing them for nationalization purposes, because it benefits us to have nationals on our side. No, it doesn't benefit us. It benefits us economically. If they can make a benefit of being here and improving the economy for whatever purpose we need them for, which in some cases, just like basically what Trump was groaning on about. Here's what he was actually saying: we're going to build a wall, and Mexico's going to pay for it. What he meant was Mexico is going to build it with the same people we're sending back. And we're going to write it off. That's what we're going to do. Trump, that was the dirtiest thing I've ever heard. But if you saw his tax package, it pretty much spoke that in values. It's spoken in volumes. The consumer's going to bite the bullet. That's it. So if he's going to do that to Mexico, he just did it to us. He just did it to us. He gave corporations 100% deduction. Okay? Let's see here. Corporate 100% deduction. Let's see here. Let's see here. And the tax overhaul pretty much said it in a nutshell. That's exactly what it, look at this right here. Expenses, old rules, new rules, right? It goes expenses for office parties, summer office, entertainment clients, employee travel. All it is between 150 to 100% deductions. You can't do that as an individual. Let me, I'm gonna actually post that in the group real quick on Facebook. You guys can see what's going on here. Okay, it didn't really change, but it changed dramatically as far as the the overall principle on what would be considered a fringe benefit for corporations. Now, some of it is, this is just the economical side of it. The actual deductions that's put on, that's a whole different story. Okay, yeah, that's a whole different story. Give me a second. I'm gonna post it in the group here. Highlight it again. Give me a second. All right. I can't put it in the group. Damn. Okay, so I have to send it to somebody. Dave's still here. Dave, you still here? Raise your hand. Somebody's here. I don't know who, but actually, I think I'll bring. He's still there. Quentin, you there? What's going on, man? You there? I'll try to bring you in on camera here. But I'm going to send this. Actually, I think Ashley is still online, so I'm gonna take a photo of mine and I'm gonna send it over. Hopefully she can repost it. I can't repost it right now. Won't allow me to do that. And I'll actually repost it on your page or your post right here. But they give all the benefits to corporations because the sole beneficiary of the economy is the one that's producing the capital. See, and it goes on to say, prior to Tax Cuts and Job Act, taxpayers, okay, he's not there. Taxpayers generally could deduct 50% of expenses from business-related meals and entertainment. Meals provided to an employee for the convenience of the employer's business premise were 100% deductible by the employer and the tax-free to the recipient employee. Various other employer-provided fringe benefits were also deducted. What's up, boss? What's going on, Quentin? I was trying to bring you in, brother. I guess you don't want to, you camera shy or something? Trying to bring you in. I guess not. Various other employer-provided fringe benefits were also deducted by employer and tax-free to the recipient employee. Under the new law, for the amounts paid for or incurred after December 31st, 2017, deductions for business-related entertainment expenses are disallowed. That's interesting. But meal expenses occurred while traveling on business are still 50% deductible. But the 50% disallowance rule will also apply to meals provided via an on-premise cafeteria, otherwise on employee's premise for the convenience of the employer. Now, the thing about that is just the way that sounds, okay? Here's how it all sounds. It sounds very funny. It sounds like they're losing something. Really, in reality, they're gaining something, which is very important. What they're gaining is that even though they don't get that deduction, that disallowance, they put it on the taxpayer's tab. So the taxpayer, which is the employer, winds up eating it up as the deduction goes to the employer. So now the employee is the one that's eating the bullet. He's the one now he's able to write it off, but he's writing it off for the company, and the company winds up making it look like a tax deal. So ultimately, that's pre-tax money that they just turn food into a new tax bracket. So the company never eats the bullet. That's just one. I'm just giving you what they're doing as what you hear as opposed to what they actually do. So a meal expense, even though it's no longer a deduction to the company, they act as a deduction to the employer, and the employer winds up paying taxes for the disallowed amount that would have been a deduction. You see what I'm saying?
They're taking their responsibility and putting it on us.
Right.
Oh my
right.
goodness. What? Oh my goodness.
Yeah. But that's how the law is structured. See, you'll read it in the paper and be like, well, you said this and this is what it said. But when you read it, they're like, no, the employee bites the bullet, because if you spend money in a cafeteria, we have a deduction clause which has been included in your employment. You didn't know it because we didn't tell you.
Right, because
but it's a part of the new rules of the corporate law structure. Right, right.
What you don't know don't hurt you. It's okay, whatever.
Right. Right.
It's 100% deductible to the company, but it's 100%. It's a liability to us. It's like we're the ones carrying the whole workload.
Yep.
And working our butts off and losing, and we're not winning. My goodness.
Yep.
Jeez.
Yep. So if they turned it into a new tax, if they turn food into a new tax, what does that mean for you at the end of the day? What do you think's happening as far as them presenting a claim that would be beneficial to you, but in the end it really is to take something from you?
Oh my goodness, no, it's not fair. It's not fair on us human beings, the real people. I mean, as a nation in general, it's not fair. It's not fair. But
if corporations are getting all the deductions, all the credit, and then they're able to turn around and pay off all their debt by using our credit, how is that not fair? We're entering into these contracts ambiguously, not reading anything. What does that mean? What does it come down to?
Well, that we're illiterate and they're not teaching us the real stuff. They're closed behind curtains doing all this for years, and we're thinking we've been lied to. Actually, we've been lied to, abused, taken advantage of. Our rights have been pretty much violated in general from generation to generation.
So so at the end of the day, becoming a national isn't all that cracked up to be when it comes down to what you know now, as opposed to what they'll do to you when it comes down to knowing that your national status is to be deceived and allow them to continue to do what?
Taking away your rights. Now, as a national, you have every right to to all this. You have every right to everything.
Yeah, but remember, the liability comes along. The citizenship, but here's the thing: the nationality and citizenship are clarified into one thing. Once you take the Constitution, you're basically saying that I'm a part of the institution. So by default, what does that mean?
You're liable.
Exactly.
You're liable.
So whether or not you're a national or a citizen,
you're guilty.
You're guilty. There really isn't no dodging that, now is it?
Jeez, no.
Yeah,
they have you cornered in every which way, north, east, south, and west.
Right. So to say I'm from this country because of this treaty, or I'm from this state because of this agreement that we have with this institution, does that mean anything if you're continuing to pay taxes and dues to a corporation?
Well, yes.
How could that possibly be different in such a way that you're benefiting from the other side as well? Because even though you have a nationality that's recognized by the United States of a state, your nationalistic side as an individual to be in the institution means that you've agreed to all the terms and conditions that comes with that nationality, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Well, how is that any different? Citizen versus national, but yet at the same time, they're in the same language, same book, same interpretation. They're just two different words. Yeah. So if I'm a national of a state, I'm now incorporated into it. As soon as I take the Constitution, I'm liable for everything that comes from it, even though it might be ambiguous, vague, whatever. Isn't it, if they say the 16th Amendment means the tax code, didn't I agree to the tax code, even though it doesn't say it? Even though it doesn't specifically stipulate it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Wow.
I mean, how hard is that to understand? How hard is that to understand that both words mean the same thing, even though they're separate? See, I'm not going to argue about whether or not something is legitimate or not. I'm going to show you that if one thing is the other, then they're both either legitimate or one is not the same as the other. And if I ask them the same question, am I a national? And they say yes, because I'm a part of a nation. And then I turn around and say, but you call me an African American. Am I a part of another nation? And they say yes, because my origin is not of America. That's only if I claim that I'm not the origin of America. If I'm not the origin of America, where's the line between my nationalistic side and my domestic side? My nationalism is based on the origin. Okay, that's socially constructed as an agreement. You know, whites will say I'm white, but if I turn around and say you're of European descent, they'll turn around and say, well, yes, but I'm not of the origin. So that means I cannot claim both nations. I can't turn around and say I'm European American. Who says that? Who says that?
No.
Nobody, right? But you can call you a what? And it's an Hispanic or I'm sorry, Mexican American. Arab American, they can call you all these other nations. Yet everybody that is not of the origin, by default, have an origin of another nation, yet they don't claim it, right?
Well, they just pat you on the back. Oh, okay, go ahead and go through.
Right.
Because what happened was when I used, actually, I think I did it the right way. So they couldn't find me in when I was crossing by the Border Patrol. They were like,
I like how you said that. You said crossing by, like I was just scooching over. I wasn't really recognized. They didn't quite see me. I just
scanned my passport. My passport, okay.
Right.
And they're like, well, we don't find you in the system. So they went ahead and put my name in manually and said, oh, there you are. I'm like, okay, do I have two different entities? It's like, you know what, where were you born? And of course I said it. And they were like, okay, all right, we found you. Next time, just go ahead and just go through. And that's it. They just patted me on the back and just let me go through. I don't know what status I am in their system.
Because you make revenue for the United States. And the United States is comfortable with people that make their money. I'm comfortable with you making my money. If you're gonna come here and make money, then I'm gonna let the floodgates open.
Jeez. Yeah.
How do you think of it like this? How do you think all the Hispanics and Mexicans get all the way up in California and all of a sudden they got a job waiting for them right there? Think about it. They just have a job. They just have a convenient job waiting for them.
Yeah.
Come on now. They let them through because they are a national surplus. We get cheap labor and we get effective results. That's about them. We don't care about anything else. Then they started putting out little, just really ridiculous, silly, what do you call it? They started putting out some really stupid things. They were saying, oh, well, what did they say? Something about, what did they say? They said that.
Citizen?
No. They were talking about, oh, there was going to be a shortage of workers in California if they sent them all back. They basically said if we don't have a systematical means of reducing our prices and competing with the rest of the world, if we don't have that, everybody's going to come in and consume us. They're going to consume us because the foreigners have, at the end of the day, if they have a cheaper price tag on them and we're domesticating our surplus by allowing them in, then effectively we're allowing nationals to act on the course to what America's main principle is to keep their leg up in the economy. Make things cheaper, more affordable, more economical. You know, the pleasure sector, the industries, when it comes down to finance and representation of the people, This comes down to what we want. We don't care what the rest of the people want, but we've industrialized it to the point that all of us are going to benefit from it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, they let me go through without any hassle. Without any hassle. They made sure I spoke English. They
Mm-hmm.
made sure that my picture was correct on my passport. They made sure I announced where I was born.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead. We just can't find you in the system. I
Now,
don't know what happened.
now,
That's the explanation that they
well,
gave to me.
that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for. Okay. So the bottom line is this: if you're a national of another country, renunciating means that you can go to any other country as long as you have an economical interest, you have somebody that's already there, or you have someone that's pledged to be economically responsible for you financially and economically, and that you're going to be a part of their surplus at the same time. And most important is that as an immigrant with a status in whatever country you go to, as long as your status is based on the national surplus, you're going to be a citizen by default, even though you don't have papers, just like the Hispanics on the West Coast, South, and everybody else in between. I'm not just talking about the Hispanics. I'm talking about everybody that has a national problem when it comes down to come to America, getting recognized as a citizen, or getting citizenship in general. Okay, that's the one step that can basically force one nation to allow another to occupy its doorstep, knowing that there's no way that by renunciation, all these people can flood in here anytime they want to. They can walk across the border and say, I'm not a state citizen. Federales ain't gonna touch it. And now you come over here and you wind up with 3 hots and a cot, and then now they have to get to the point of saying, okay, we're gonna turn you into a citizen. We don't have much of an option. What else? I mean, we're gonna allow the taxpayers to fund your bed, fund you feeding you. Anybody in some of these third world countries would take 3 hots and a cot over, And I know you got to leave here in a moment, Maria. But anybody in their right mind in another country that knows the compound interest of being in a jail for 3 or maybe 2 or 3 years, knowing that their citizenship is almost it's impossible to leave you there because you're not a national of any other country. They're going to turn you into a citizen. Now, it may sound like a sacrifice, but the sacrifice is the fact that still remains is that if you're not a benefit, America sees that there's shortage on employment or whatever. Let employment sink, and everybody comes over here and gets locked up, even though they're not a national. And it's to the point that the resources are being overconsumed to continue to send them back to the country. They're going to eventually turn you into a national, knowing that at the end of the day, you will be more beneficial than forcing the taxpayer to pay for you 3 hots and a cot, and then eventually sending you back.
You're right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, because you know what? I even saw a live situation where these 2 elderly people were crossing the border, and customs was asking them, well, where's all your paperwork? Well, she missed only one paperwork, and she was coming like 20 hours within Mexico to the border.
Wow.
And they had me there, with my kids asking me, what are you doing here? It was a couple of years back.
9:00.
Oh,
no, it's 9:00. Go ahead.
Okay, and I saw them, and this agent, Border Patrol agent, said, "You have no use here in the United States." Oh, I turned around, and she was Hispanic too. She turned around. I turned around, and I saw her. I looked her straight in the face, and I said, "Man, that's so sad." And those 2 elderly people had to get their bags and go back home because she had forgotten just one piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't matter. And they just kicked her on out of the office and said, you know what? I'm not going to let you go by. I'm not going to let you pass. I mean, it's ridiculous, really. It's just, I think it's just taking advantage of power, I believe.
It's
It
not
was
just
so
taking
sad.
it's not just taking advantage of power. It's disenfranchising those
Right.
that cannot ascertain power. That's
Worthless.
the
Exactly. There you go. They just, and that really upset me. And I looked at her. I said, Don't let me go. At that time, I didn't know all this stuff. I'm going to get my lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to sue y'all. And then y'all going to really know. And they went ahead and signed whatever. Okay, go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead and go by with your kids. I mean, they just wanted me to be there. I don't know why. They wanted me to sit there and I had to raise my hand too and everything. It was just, I'm like, ridiculous. I was like, I'm going home. It's time, you know? So, and then, of course, you see all the injustice of what's going on. But actually, it's the set of rules that they have, the codes, everything pretty much. They're just going by the rules, doing their job.
Mm. Well, there you have it. There you have it. All right, Maria, I'll let you go.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Phil.
You got it. You got
Bye,
it.
guys. Adios. Los quiero mucho. Raza. Bye.
As you heard from Ms. Delgado, so what we got here, this is what we got. Okay. Fun stuff at the end of the day when it comes down to being well informed, knowing that this information is out there. And that at the end of the day, if you read it, if you can read its simple financial and economical implications as far as what immigration and policy does, what it's used for, what it's mitigated to do when it comes down to administrating you as a citizen or becoming a citizen or disenfranchising or renouncing a state because you no longer want to be a citizen of that country or that entity or whatever it happens to be. At the end of the day, as long as you're not a member of it, you're not going to benefit from it. So look, it was a good note. Everybody, please repost the YouTube link. It's on my Facebook page. You can find me at www.facebook.com/PHILLIPGILLON, the number 2, not 2 as in TWO, the number 2. All right. Yeah, of course, I don't usually go live on YouTube as often as I used to, but Facebook, y'all see where I'm at. YouTube, I'm here, so I might do a few more here coming soon. Who knows? Of course, you can still get a hold of me at 424-245-9408. Email address is profphil@politicsandmoneyinc.com. That's profphil@politicsandmoneyinc.com. Politicsandmoney.com. That's also the website. We can find majority of the products, well, some of the products, not a majority of them. And then we also have ZTEPI, which is an institution that takes in taxes and allocates it to other principal matters, which is, for instance, friends in jail, and your taxes are going towards rebuilding a bridge. Instead, it should be going to, especially if it's no benefit to your community, it should go towards the defense fund that would otherwise be spent to reduce the probability of an incarcerated individual or to incarcerate an individual. So that's just one principle. There's numbers of things that we can petition for and redress the general public demand for redressing majority of our problems, which is a tax issue in general. In context, in its structure overall, taxes is the presentment of accredited institutions to do what they're doing to us, whether it's the police, whether it's local law enforcement, whether it's federal or state institutions, or it's just local entities that come in and act on behalf of the state and the county and municipality. Everything from snatching kids to excessive bail, you name it. ZTEPI's main principle is to take out the middleman and abstract them out of, basically abstract them into a non-existent state, which is they're no longer a necessity if ZTEPI's replacing them to do what the community is asking for. That's the sole basis of ZTEPI. ZTEPI is www.ztepillc.com. That's www.zeptepillc.com. Facebook, YouTube. I'm gonna get up out of here, man. I'll holler at y'all in a minute. Peace.